We live in interesting times for the headlines. Saudi Arabia admits critic Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside its Istanbul consulate, saying he died during a brawl, an explanation that President Trump calls credible but draws skepticism from top U.S. lawmakers. President Trump says that he finds credible Saudi Arabia's assertion that dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi died as a result of a fight. Angry relatives stage protests on railway tracks while others desperately search hospitals for relatives after a speeding train plows through crowds watching a Hindu festival firework display, killing at least 59 people. Thousands of migrants force their way through Guatemala's northwestern border and flood onto a bridge leading to Mexico, where riot police battled them back, halting their trek towards the United States, at least temporarily. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us. And now to the news. For the first time, Saudi Arabia admits that critic Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside its Istanbul consulate, saying he died during a brawl. 18 suspects suddenly rounded up people under arrest, including high-ranking officials. Take a look. Country State TV reported, quoting an initial probe, Deputy Intelligence Chief Ahmad al-Asiri and Saudi al-Qahtani, senior aide to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, were dismissed over the affair. Now, this is the first time the kingdom has admitted Mr. Khashoggi has died. U.S. President Donald Trump said what had happened was unacceptable, but that Saudi Arabia was a great ally.
What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think it's a good first step. It's a big step. It's a lot of people involved, and I think it's a great first step. You probably know that very fair person, Reuters, and you probably know that you're very good, very, very good. And Saudi Arabia has been a great ally, but what happened is unacceptable. We are going to see they've arrested, just for the people at the table, a large number of people having to do with the event that took place in Turkey and the consulate, the Saudi consulate. And it's a big first step. It's only a first step, but it's a big first step.
There was a fist fight, and as a result of the fist fight, Mr. Khashoggi was killed.
Well, I don't know that that's a notion. I mean, that's a theory that's being thrown out. I don't think anybody said that, but they're saying there was a fight, but that's a theory that was put out. But they're going to be giving us a full report. But they have arrested a large number of people. No, I think that we'll be talking to them. We'll see what happens. We may have some questions. We do have some questions. And as I told you, I'll be working on this with Congress. Congress is very interested in this one, and we'll be working with Congress. But I would prefer, if there is going to be some form of sanction or what we may determine to do, if anything, because this was a lot of people they're talking about, and people pretty high up. But I would prefer that we don't use as retribution canceling $110 billion worth of work, which means 600,000 jobs. I know it sounds easy and it sounds good, and a lot of people have said, oh, let's just not sell them $110 billion, or I guess you take it a step further, let's not sell them $450 billion, which is the largest order in the history of our country. I went there to get that order. Saudi Arabia was my first stop, and everyone thought that was unusual, but I said, I want you to order a tremendous amount of stuff, right? Everything, your stuff and everybody's stuff. And Wilbur was there. They ordered $450 billion. There's never been anything like it or close. The last thing I want to do is say we're not going to supply you with that, and therefore we're going to cut. I guess if you add the whole thing up, because just for the military was 600,000 jobs. So now if you're talking about, that was 110 billion, you're talking about over 1 million jobs. I'd rather keep the 1 million jobs.
Now, the acknowledgement follows 2 weeks of denials that Saudi Arabia had any involvement in the disappearance of the prominent Saudi critic when he entered the consulate in Istanbul on October 2 to seek paperwork for his upcoming marriage. A statement from Saudi Arabia's public prosecutor said a fight broke out between Mr. Khashoggi, who had fallen out of favor with the Saudi government, and people who met him in the consulate, ending with his death. The investigations are still underway, it said, and 18 Saudi nationals have been arrested. The Saudi authorities have yet to give evidence to support this version of events. State media said Saudi King Salman had ordered the sacking of 2 senior officials. Saudi Al-Qahtani is a prominent member of the Saudi royal court and advisor to Prince Mohammed bin Salman. To other news now, newly appointed Foreign Affairs Secretary and concurrent representative to the United Nations, Teodoro Locsin Jr., represented President Duterte at the 12th Asia-Europe meeting, or ASEM Summit, and EU-ASEAN leaders meeting in Brussels, Belgium on October 18, Central European summertime. Take a look. Now, ASEM, a platform for dialogue and cooperation between Asia and Europe, is expected to reinforce its role as a catalyst for effective alliance of countries pursuing common goals, as well as to bring out the pillars of partnership, including peace and security, trade and investment, sustainable development, and people-to-people ties. Let's listen in.
We congratulate President Donald Tusk on steering the ASEM Summit to its successful conclusion today. The summit brings us to a tighter partnership between Asia and Europe to address challenges global in scale and import. Our talks covered a wide range of concerns in politics, economics, and culture, and I added migration. The Asian experience with Europe in history is the other face of the European experience with Asia. At this summit, no judgments were made about that experience. What there was instead was a determined and cooperative effort to discover the best possibilities of the greatest mutual benefit by moving forward. ASEM's value added was to show how informal dialogue can move forward even on the most difficult issues. Among the issues, I have no doubt, developments in the Korean Peninsula are the most important today and in the future. An ASEAN-EU meeting will take place later in the day to talk about extending a 40-year dialogue into the next 40 years. 2 regions that account for some of the best functioning economies and organized societies of the present are involved here, and there's clearly something there of value we intend to keep growing. Thank you.
And staying at the summit, more than 50 European and Asian leaders backed free trade and the fight against climate change in a veiled swipe at U.S. President Trump and his increasingly protectionist approach. As disputes fester with Washington, the 12th summit of the Asia-Europe meeting, or ASEM, gave its support to the World Trade Organization, which Trump has accused of treating the U.S. unfairly.
We should all make use of this impressive weight to tackle global challenges, such as trade tensions that put millions of jobs at risk, the growing distrust in multilateral institutions, undermining the stability of our societies, and the growing threat of climate change. To those who prefer quick fixes without clear rules, I say it is not worth it. A world of no rules is, by definition, a world of chaos.
EU diplomatic chief Federica Mogherini insisted as she arrived that it was not an anti-Trump meeting before enumerating most of the current areas of difference between Europe and the United States.
Is this an anti-Trump meeting? We don't organize meetings against anyone. We have, you know me by now, but this is really the European attitude. We have our agenda. It's a very clear agenda. It's an agenda that supports multilateralism, starting from the UN system, climate change action, trade, free and fair, non-proliferation, and international agreements that support the non-proliferation global architecture. And this is at the center of our work with different partners around the world, and Asia is a very important one.
Meanwhile, thousands of people traveling across Central America en masse to the U.S. are stuck on Mexico's southern border after a failed attempt to enter the country. Take a look. Now, this is the caravan of mainly Honduran migrants whose journey has triggered escalating anti-immigrant rhetoric from U.S. President Donald Trump. On Friday, surged through a series of police lines and barricades up to the final fence on Mexico's southern border. According to AFP, they started to allow a small number of people, including women and children, who were seeking refugee status to pass the border late on Friday. They were put onto trucks and taken into shelters. An estimated 3,000 people are said to have joined the journey of nearly 2,800 miles, mostly on foot, which began in San Pedro Sula, Honduras, more than a week ago. Now, many of the migrants temporarily broke through barriers on a bridge which crosses the river border between Guatemala and Mexico. Dozens of Mexican police in riot gear fired tear gas to force them to retreat into no man's land after being attacked with stones. A number of migrants jumped into the Suchiate River, as you saw earlier, to reach rafts, while others either turned back towards Guatemala or simply sat down on the bridge. Several people were reportedly injured in the clash, including migrants, police, and journalists. The migrants, mostly from Honduras, say they are fleeing violence and poverty and include women and children. The Mexican authorities said those with valid passports and visas would be allowed in immediately, though this is believed to apply to only a minority of the migrants. Now, they warned that anyone without papers would have to apply for refugee status or turn back, and anyone who crossed illegally would be detained and deported. President Trump, who has threatened to close down the U.S. border and cut aid to countries allowing the caravan to pass, said the military would be called upon if needed.
A entrar aquí, pues, aunque sea así por el río, entramos. Y aquí ya estamos esperando la mayoría de que vienen atrás, digamos. La mayoría vienen atrás, nosotros somos unos pocos. Pero vamos a esperar que venga toda la gente para poder viajar hacia adelante.
Un éxodo tan grande nunca. Nunca. Sin embargo, sí ha habido en algunas ocasiones anteriores masivos, llegadas masivas, pero nunca una tan grande como la que esperamos ahora.
More than 50 people were killed on Friday after a speeding train ran over revelers celebrating a Hindu festival in northern India, with witnesses saying they were given no warnings before the disaster struck. Take a look. An eyewitness told the local TV channel there was utter commotion when the crowds noticed the train coming very fast towards them. Everyone was running helter-skelter and suddenly the train crashed into the crowds of people, said the witness. Another eyewitness said people were taking pictures on their mobile phones and they were not given any warning that they should not stand on the tracks. TV footage showed crowds gathered around the venue where an effigy of Demon King Ravana was set alight, exploding into a huge fireball. Many who had climbed on rooftops for a glimpse of the action clapped and cheered as the fireworks exploded, as the festive scenes soon turned tragic. I have lost my child. I want him back, an inconsolable mother said, wailing and beating her chest. Some relatives of the deceased blamed the authorities for allowing a big function to be held next to the railway track. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he was extremely saddened by the heart-wrenching tragedy and asked officials to provide immediate assistance to the injured. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is
Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. That you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
Meanwhile, the United Nations said that Yemen is heading into the abyss and is urging the international community to end the war before it's too late. UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, says as many as 400,000 children are at risk of dying from severe malnutrition, and nearly 2.5 million need medical treatment because they're not getting enough to eat. Yemen has been broken by nearly 4 years of war and is dangerously close to total collapse. Government forces backed by a Saudi-led coalition are battling Houthi rebels who have taken control of several provinces, including the capital, Sana'a.
And I can confirm that as of late 2017, there were 8.4 million severely food insecure people who need emergency food assistance every month to survive. Due to economic decline, including depreciation of the currency, humanitarian partners estimate that this population could rise up to 5 million people. So the total figure could come to 13.4 million severely food insecure people.
The situation in Yemen.
In other news, Indonesian authorities used helicopters to drop disinfectant on parts of the earthquake and tsunami-ravaged city of Palu, where thousands of decomposing bodies are still buried beneath once thriving neighborhoods. Take a look. The magnitude 7.5 quake and a subsequent tsunami razed swathes of the city on Sulawesi Island on September 28. More than 2,100 bodies, or 2,100 bodies, have been recovered since the twin disasters. But there are fears that 5,000 more could be buried beneath the ruins in the neighborhoods of Balaroa, Petobo, and Jono Oge, which were swallowed by soil in a process known as liquefaction. Indonesia's Disaster Mitigation Agency began dousing the areas on Thursday to prevent flies, cockroaches, and rats spreading disease. Agency spokesman Sutopo Purwo Nugroho said in a statement the drops were necessary due to the high number of fatalities believed to be buried under the rubble. Parks and monuments are eventually planned at these locations to remember the untold thousands of dead who will never be found. One job should be enough. That has been the campaign and battle cry for nearly 3,000 hotel workers in Waikiki and Maui, which have been among Hawaii's top tourist destinations. 1 week has passed since negotiations have failed between their labor union and management. Ron Hamilton, our EBC Hawaii correspondent, files this developing story.
It has now been one whole week
since thousands of hotel workers in Waikiki began protesting against their managers over alleged lack of pay and benefits. So far, there is no resolution in sight. Contract negotiations broke down between Union Local 5 and Kyoya, a Japanese-based company that owns 5 hotels, namely the Sheraton Waikiki, the Royal Hawaiian, the Moana Surfrider, Sheraton Princess Kailani, and the Sheraton Maui, some of which are currently ranked in the top 10 in Hawaii according to some websites. More than 2,700 hotel workers started their strike in the early morning of October 8th. Some staged themselves along Waikiki's Kalakaua Avenue to be seen and heard by visitors and residents, even to the point of creating disruption. Other protest groups gathered at more iconic locations, such as the beaches of Waikiki and the Moana Surfrider. Notice a limousine and several vehicles trying to get into the hotel's driveway. Many of the protesters happen to be Filipinos, such as union member Gemma Weinstein, who took the time to air out her frustrations in this interview.
Well, it's very important to have job security for the workers, right?
Okay.
And living in Hawaii is so expensive. Napakamahal dito sa Hawaii. At yung sweldo nila ngayon, it's not enough. Tapos ang trabaho nila, they working like 2 people doing job before. Now it's only 1 doing 2 jobs. And ang goal namin dito is to have 1 job should be enough to live dito sa Hawaii, even if it's so expensive.
According to the union's website, support has poured in from other groups, such as the sheet metal workers, airline employees, and teachers' unions. U.S. Senator Mazie Hirono even posted a tweet calling out corporate leaders to come to the negotiating table to ensure 1 job is enough for those working in Hawaii. Local 5 is part of the Unite Here union. This past week, Unite Here went on strike against Marriott-managed hotels employing 7,000 union workers in 7 cities: Boston, Detroit, San Diego, San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose. The state and local governments have yet to weigh in on this ongoing problem, which might have a negative effect on the upcoming holiday season. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, this is Ron Hamilton for Eagle News. I am 1 with 25.
All right, Democratic congressional candidate Harley Ruda is trying to win in the Huntington Beach, which for 30 years now has been held by Republicans. Now, can the Democrats swing California's Republican bastion? Let's hear the report.
Harley Ruda leads the Democratic battle cry in California's Orange County, a Republican stronghold.
This is the blue wave that you're going to see not just flip the 48th, but be across the United States.
He's facing an uphill battle. His district has voted Republican for the past 47 years.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Why do I think I can do it? For several reasons. One, we have shifting demographics. So that coupled with the fact that the Republican Party has moved so far to the right and that people want people in the middle that will put country and community first.
Volunteers, some only just old enough to vote, are knocking on doors. A final push, as polls suggest all 7 Orange County districts could turn blue on November 6th.
I think the challenge here is trying to convince people who are Republicans and hard on the right to maybe meet in the middle, to vote for a Democrat for once maybe. I think Trump represents the Republican Party right now, and that is a problem for some Republicans who don't like Trump at all.
The president's rhetoric about women in particular has pushed many longtime GOP supporters like Catherine to rethink their vote.
the fact that he thought women was just an object and that, because he's rich and powerful, he can do anything he wants. So therefore, I think he's harmful to the Republican Party. I think that he has forever changed the Republican Party, I believe.
If Democrats are able to ride this wave of anti-Trump sentiment here, the ripple effect could impact the entire midterm elections.
In other news, an Ariane 5 rocket blasted off for its mission to space from Kourou, French Guiana, to study Mercury and explore the solar system. Take a look.
Décollage de DO, attention pour le décompte final. 6, 5, 4. Allumage Vulcain.
The suite of instruments on board the Ariane 5 rocket will have to travel 7 years and 9 million kilometers to reach its destination. An unmanned European-Japanese space mission set for launch early Saturday morning from French Guiana, dubbed Bepi Colombo, will probe mysteries of the solar systems. Mercury is 58 million kilometers from the Sun, nearly 3 times closer than Earth. The Bepi Colombo mission will deploy 2 spacecraft. The Mercury Planet Orbiter, built by ESA, will investigate planet surface and interior composition. The Mercury Magnetospheric Orbiter, made by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, will study the region of space around the planet that is influenced by its magnetic field. The mission will also look for tectonic activity and seek to understand why spectroscopic observations show no iron, even if it is thought to be one of the planet's major component elements. Compared to Mars, Venus, and Saturn, Mercury has barely been explored. Only 2 spacecraft have ever paid it a visit. NASA's Mariner 10 did 3 flybys in 1974 and 1975, providing the first up-close images. More than 30 years later, NASA's Messenger did the same before settling into orbit around Mercury in 2011. And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG. Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
For business news, this is Cesar Vallejos. Kidnapped Tanzanian billionaire Mohamed Dewji has been released 10 days after he was seized by armed men in the city of Dar es Salaam. "I have returned home safely," he said in a tweet from his company Mittel Group's account. The businessman, known locally as Mo, thanked Tanzanian police and everyone around the world for their prayers. It is not clear how Mr. Dewji, 43, was freed or whether a ransom was paid. Forbes places Mr. Dewji's net worth at around $1.5 billion, which would make him Africa's youngest billionaire. Mr. Dewji was abducted by gunmen at the Colosseum Hotel early on 11 October as he arrived for a morning workout. His family had offered 1 billion Tanzania shilling or $440,000, 330 pounds reward for information leading to his rescue. Tanzania's Environment Minister January Makamba, a close friend of the industrialist, tweeted on Saturday morning that he had spoken to Mr. Dewji and his father. He said the kidnappers had abandoned Mr. Dewji at a field near the Gymkhana Club in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania's commercial capital. The billionaire is reported to be in good health, but with bruises on his hands and legs due to handcuffing. Mr. Dewji served as an MP in Tanzania's ruling party for a decade until 2015. He is credited with turning his family business from a wholesale and retail enterprise into a pan-African conglomerate. His company, METL, has interests in textile manufacturing, flour milling, beverages, and edible oils in at least 6 African states. Now, the Philippines' biggest business awards that recognize leadership excellence honored 2 of the country's leading public and private figures as Lifetime Contributors of the Year. SM Investments Vice Chairman and BDO Chairman Teresita C. Coson and former Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Armando Tetanco Jr. Asia CEO Awards 2018 was held at the Marriott Hotel with the theme "Let's Build This Country." In her acceptance speech, Tessie C. Coson said that her company's challenge is to sustain agility and build across organizational capabilities to meet future demands.
Organizations to have more efficiency and productivity with the end goal of producing better financial results, more customer loyalty, and stronger employee engagement. At this stage of my life, when many people are looking into slower pace or even retirement, it seems that I still have to learn a lot and work many hours to meet the challenges of our future business demand.
Teresita C. Coson is the only Filipina in Fortune's 50 most powerful business women in the world. For his part, Governor Armando Tetanco Jr., the lifetime contributor from the private sector, stressed that the mandate of the central bank is clear, but its implementation is prone to challenges and complicated by so many moving parts. The national, regional, and global environments keep on changing with varying depth, speed, and impact.
Indeed, the accomplishments of the central bank are not the governors alone. The BSP is not a one-man band. Rather, the governor's role is similar to that of a conductor of an orchestra who has to lead people from different disciplines and mindsets to come together to generate and implement strategic policies beneficial to our country, our economy, and our people. And the BSP has a deliberate program to make this happen. Did we always succeed? Well, no, we're not perfect. But most of the time, and where it mattered the most, we achieved our objectives. Given that certain conditions today are different from those prevailing under my term, some of you may be wondering how we can move forward and navigate through new and emerging challenges. Well, as a former CEO, I can tell you that the BSP has what it takes to address today's challenges. And it is ready. Its record speaks for itself.
President Rodrigo Duterte on Wednesday, October 17, signed the Petroleum Service Contract number 76 with Israel's Ratio Petroleum Limited, covering the East Palawan area at the Heroes Hall in Malacanang. According to the Department of Energy, the service contract deal will allow the Israeli firm to explore the Area 4, covering 416,000 hectares across the East Palawan Basin for potential oil and gas resources. Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi said this is the first petroleum service contract signed under the Duterte administration. The President and Cusi signed the deal on behalf of the Philippine government, while Israeli Ambassador to the Philippines, Rafael Harpas, and officials of Ratio Petroleum Limited signed for the service contract. Cusi said that the service contract aims to help the country to attain energy security and sustainability at the soonest possible time. He also said that we need to boost the exploration and development of our own energy resources, and the awarding of the petroleum service contract to Ratio Petroleum is a step in the right direction. European companies and Filipino businessmen engaged with the country's top cabinet officials at the EU-Philippines Business Summit, which was highlighted by discussions on Philippine competitiveness held at the Soler Thursday. The forum focused on how Philippine trade and investments regulations and policies impact to the creation of a competitive business environment in the spirit of inclusive growth for all. Deputy Speaker Arthur Yap cited the latest World Economic Forum report, which ranks the Philippines in 92nd place out of 140 countries in terms of infrastructure. The Philippines is behind Vietnam, Thailand, Brunei, and Malaysia. He emphasized the need to not only look at the concerns of foreign investors in the construction industry, but also at the concerns of the local construction players. He identified lagging issues as bureaucratic red tape, anti-competitive measures, right-of-way issues and other factors that hinder the participation of the local contractors in bidding for projects. Yap will recommend the review of the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 4566, the act creating the Philippine Licensing Board for Contractors, and to amend it after proper consultation with stakeholders, to ensure the removal of the distinction in the granting of a license to Filipinos and foreign-based contractors. Meanwhile, once the implementing rules and regulations of the ARTA is passed, Department of Trade and Industry Ramon Lopez said that it will be a harsh law because government employees who violate it can be suspended, terminated, imprisoned up to 5 years, and fined up to 5 million, and all his benefits will be forfeited. The forum aimed to further improve the country's position as a competitive destination for EU businesses in the areas of infrastructure, environment and water, healthcare, tax reform, and the liberalization of economic activities. That's it for business news. This is Cesar Vallejos, and I'm one with 25. Eagle News International will be back. Stay with us.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami ko ospital na napuntahan, pero wala ring nangyayari. Somebody introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated. After 2 treatments, gumanda ang pakiramdam ko.
My friends introduced me Manila Beijing Medical Associated, and luckily I got cured. So I sincerely want to thank the doctors of Manila Beijing Medical Associated.
For the past 30 years, ang dami ko nang na-take na mga gamot. Nothing happened to me. So until one my friend introduced me to Manila Beijing Medical Associated, you know what? All my illness was cured.
For any health problems or incurable diseases, you can visit Manila Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated, located at 843B Sabino Padilla Street, Binondo, Manila.
The machine is back at alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami po ospital na napuntahan, pero wala ring nangyayari. Somebody
In Heathrow, United Kingdom, the Iglesia Ni Cristo conducted a healthcare professionals appreciation dinner, a day that means a great deal to the many who have dedicated their lives to providing the best possible medical care to others. Van Season reports.
In a modern society, healthcare professionals are often the forgotten heroes who are overworked and under-supported, and their immense contribution to our healthcare system is often overlooked. In the case of the INC members in Heathrow, United Kingdom, they organized a healthcare professionals appreciation dinner to recognize the hard work and commitment of these unsung heroes.
You guys are doing immense work across the board, across the world. I can see from the video clips what I saw, and there's no boundaries. You all are, just extending your love and, taking the message and helping the humanity. That is amazing.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with my job. I'm happy to help for vulnerable people, to look after. This is my part of the life. We are quite enjoying this, doing my job. Very happy and peacefully. It's a good job, it's a good field. We can help for each other. Yeah, that's the good thing we can do. That's the good thing God give it to us. Yeah, the amazing thing to help for each other.
First of all, the success lies earlier in the evangelical mission. Not only we invited them to honor them, but earlier they participated in the evangelical mission. And they, for the first time, they saw a 30-minute video of the latest Iglesia ni Cristo updates.
For me, it's very much, it is all about the patient, and you can have your bad days, but actually it's quite a humbling experience because you suddenly realise how good you have it compared to somebody, and if you're able just to, give a small ounce of grace to that person so that they can actually, feel good about themselves despite what they're going through, then, you've done the job well. Actually being in the event, I'm so glad I came because, I think sometimes it's not what it's about, but it's nice to be recognised for the work that you do, not just by the patients, but the fact that the public know about it as well is, it's really great.
This event may be a simple gesture by the INC members of how they care for the community, but you can tell from the atmosphere today how overwhelmed the guests were for getting the recognition that they deserve. And it goes to show that such a simple act of kindness can go a long way. Reporting for EBC London, here in the United Kingdom, I'm Love Ann Season, and I'm 1 with 25.
All right, a stretch of the 5 freeway that runs through Tacoma and Sun Valley, California was named after rock and roll star Ritchie Valens. RJ and Celeste Rodriguez with a report.
From Pacoima, California, celebrating the life, the legacy, and the music of Ritchie Valens.
People have gathered at Ritchie Valens Park in Pacoima, California for the unveiling of his Memorial Highway. Free to the public, this event celebrates the music and legacy of Ritchie Valens with live entertainment, food trucks, and a showing of the movie La Bamba.
Letting the legacy of Ritchie Valens live on for the younger generation to know who Ritchie Valens was, the music.
It's important.
And what he did for music and for our people.
Yes, he's a pioneer.
Exactly, the pioneer of rock and roll. And
Carlos Santana once told me and my sister that if it wasn't for Ritchie, he wouldn't be Carlos. He's a huge Ritchie Valens fan, huge, as is Bruno Mars.
Right.
You know what I mean? On Bruno's first CD, he talks about Ritchie.
Well, they said when Ritchie performed, you guys can attest, he performed with a lot of soul and just passion.
Passion. He was driven. He was driven by his music.
A rising star whose life was cut short by a tragic plane crash in 1959, the impact of his musical talent continues to inspire fans of rock and roll.
What inspired you to have this event?
Well, Ritchie Valens is a very important part of our community. He's a tremendous source of pride. And for me, I want to create opportunities for our community to come together and celebrate in such a positive way and commemorate and, really celebrate an individual who has left such an incredible legacy for generations.
Right behind us is the unveiling of the Ritchie Valens Memorial Highway. Oh, this is actually history in the making that we just experienced today. Music from 1959. How did you feel about this?
I'm very happy. It feels so great that we have witnessed this history.
Yes, I am RJ Rodriguez.
Celeste Rodriguez.
And we are 1 with 25.
All right, the new Hawaii 5-0 honors the 50th anniversary of the 1968 premiere of this original show. Here's our EBC correspondent from Hawaii, Alfred Acenas.
Hawaii 5-0 was a game changer for our industry, and it was not without its struggles when they first tried to launch the show originally. I think there were a lot of people within our visitor industry, within our government, that were very, very nervous about supporting a show that was going to showcase the seedy underside, supposedly, of Hawaii.
September 20, 1968 would serve as a pivotal moment not only for the Aloha State, but
but even for a nervous Hollywood industry. And after the pilot program was first aired on CBS, each episode since then would begin with lead actor Jack Lord quickly looking over his right shoulder while standing on the highest balcony of the Ilikai Hotel that still stands to this day. Ekomamai and welcome to the world of Hawaii Five-0. This one-of-a-kind project, which ran from 1968 until its last episode in April 1980, would become one of the longest police and crime-fighting TV series for the next several decades. Because production was done mostly outdoors, familiar attractions like Waikiki were frequently showcased to viewers around the world. The cast and crew did have a permanent facility on the northern side of Diamond Head.
The Hawaii Film Studio at Diamond Head has a very long, illustrious history. At one point, it was part of the University of Hawaii system, and it was carved out for the film industry largely because of the success of Hawaii Five-0 and the fact that they needed a home base in order to operate. So as the series gained notoriety and gained popularity, and then it was the longest running procedural at the time, and then was followed by Magnum PI. It became increasingly apparent that we needed state-of-the-art facilities. The main reason why that site was chosen is because it was available, and there was a master plan done back in the 80s where they tried to look at many different areas, but because of its proximity to Waikiki, its proximity to the urban center, and its proximity to a wide array of accommodations for everything from crew members to, celebrities and stars that were guest stars on the show, they needed to be in that spot.
Veteran broadcaster and media entrepreneur Emmy Tumingbang Burns vividly recalls how the TV series was first conceived and how her own family was instrumental to its success.
Leonard Freeman, who did Route 66 and other great television shows, wanted to do something on location. I got from his children that they had relatives here, so they would come on vacation. Correct me when I'm wrong. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. And he loved it here so much that he thought, there's such beautiful scenery, and he felt that it was I guess the right thing to do is to try it out, and of course Hollywood went crazy. We've had other shows like Adventures in Paradise and Hawaiian Eye, but they weren't as visible to the different locations as Hawaii Five-0 was meant to be. Now, he and his family started to come over a lot, and the kids kind of grew up here in the summers, but they met my father-in-law, Governor Burns. At the time, he was, I guess, the first or second state governor, and he was a cop before he was governor. So Leonard Freeman just asked the right person for a cop show in Hawaii. I mean, the governor was going to be, just all for it, except he did say, I don't want this to be a bang-bang shoot 'em up. I want you to make sure you talk about the good things about Hawaii so we can encourage tourism.
Right. For actor Dennis Chun, it was indeed a blessing to star in the reboot series. But here is an interesting fact about his father.
Well, my father was Cam Fong, and he played Chino Kelly in the original Hawaii Five-0, and it's my privilege to play Sergeant Duku Kela in this rendition of Hawaii Five-0, and it's just very humbling and at times very moving to realize that you're walking your father's footsteps. There's no words to describe it. Now we've been doing it for almost 50, well actually we've been doing it for 50 years now. Well, the first thing you got to observe was how hard he had to work. He worked very hard at learning the craft of acting. He had been only a theatrical actor. He'd done a lot of stage plays in Honolulu. But television and film is a little bit different in technique, so you have to learn that. He learned it, worked very hard. I remember him studying lines at night. I remember when I would make an appearance on the show, He would always tell me, make sure you listen to what the director says, know your lines, know your mark, watch Jack, learn how to be a professional. It's a business. Do good.
But one location in downtown Honolulu may have benefited the most from the TV series. It served as the fictional headquarters of the 5-0 unit, and it generated much more interest beyond the TV screen. This is Iolani Palace.
Iolani Palace is a very sacred place. And it, like Hawaii 5-0, the original, it is celebrating its 50th anniversary. As to the 50 years since its restoration was complete. Back in the day, this structure, which is a museum, it is a work of art of the highest order, and it is a symbol of the Hawaiian people.
Another local celebrity, Kimo Kahuano, who also earned the special privilege to be cast in both the original and reboot series, talks story about learning to appreciate the palace and Hawaiian culture as a whole.
Well, in a way, you know, you see the palace, and then we start to understand as young kids who are seeing it, there is a heritage here. And then as I moved through this business and was doing Hawaii 5-0 and I wanted to be an actor, I went to LA and they're calling me back to Honolulu to do an audition. So I really found it as a great place to be a professional actor. But also at that time, I was working in Hawaiian music. So by being in radio and being with all of these wonderful artists and people who teach and dance the hula, we got to understand more about our culture. So now the palace becomes even more important. So here's this beautiful, iconic building that was part of one very special expansion to the world. And now the palace becomes understood by the world as the home to our Hawaiian kingdom, right? Which is so important. We were a people, we had a kingdom, and everyone was a citizen of the kingdom, no matter where they came from in the world. They became part of the citizenship. It was so beautiful. We learned that because we saw exposures of the palace on Hawaii 5-0 and other venues, and then we got to learn. And when you learn about your culture and your people, you can go, you can understand, you can respect, and you can welcome the very special presence of our ancestors right here, right here. Wow.
Welcome, Dano. Let's go.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Yes, we're coming for you.
Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Alfred Asenas for Eagle News. I'm one with 25.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Eagle News International, thank you for joining us. I'm Alma Angeles, always one with 25. Good night.